Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Fox, and today I wanted to have a look at the Mantis exotic sniper rifle. I'm not sure when they fixed it, but it did used to have a buggy talent, and that made it go from being the best sniper in the game to still definitely up there, but it definitely took away from the whole point of this weapon, which is to play around with the decoy. Since that has now been fixed, the Mantis has once again retained its, or regained should I say, its top spot as the best sniper in the game. And whilst the White Death gets an honourable mention and a very close second, as it does achieve technically more damage, the utility combined with the very high damage of the Mantis just makes it the top dog for me. So what I wanted to do today was have a look at the weapon and a couple of builds, one solo, one group play, to show you just how well this weapon performs. The builds are very easy to put together. A lot of them I just use gear pieces with, as they give us a very nice damage boost. What I'll do below in the description, so go straight to this if you want to, I will timestamp the different parts of this video. What we're specifically going to do is have a look at, first of all, the Mantis, so we'll just have a look at what the talent does and how that performs. We're then going to look at two talents that I think work best with it, and the only two talents really you should use, which is Focus, ideally perfect Focus, and Headhunter. And as part of that segment of the video, I will do a quick damage test in the firing range as well. I'll then move on to the two builds, so that won't take too long to go through those two, and I'll finish with some Heroic Summit gameplay with the group version of the two builds, which is actually the one that you see in front of you here. Now, the way that I put these builds together, I feel complement the weapon and the talent that we're using, the chest talent, best, but there are definitely other ways to build it. You know, very commonly you'll see three-piece aces, often two Heraldry, possibly a Providence or a Punch Drug. You could get Foxes in there, you can get Sawyers. There's loads of different ways to put together sniper builds, but the way that I've done them is just nice and easy, fantastic all-round damage. Maybe not the absolute best damage, but that's certainly made up for by just a general ease of use with all of the builds. So let's get started with the first part of the video, the exotic Mantis sniper rifle. Now, this sniper rifle was a Season Pass exclusive in either Season 2 or 3, I forget which one now. So if you didn't play that season, what you will need to do is farm targeted loot, obviously marksman rifles, to get this to drop. It can drop anywhere in game, and if you turn on your directives, you will have an increased chance of your loot dropping, being the targeted loot. I was under the impression this only worked in the Summit, but after rereading through the TU, I think it was 11.1 patch notes, it quite clearly states in there that directives increase the chance of getting targeted loot drop anywhere in game. It doesn't improve the rolls of the drop, that's only difficulty based, but it does improve the chance of getting that specific item. So if you hit up sniper rifles in the Summit, get on as many directives as you can before it starts to slow you down. You need to find that balance between efficient farming and an appropriate amount of directives to increase your chances, and you should get this weapon. By default, it rolls with the minor attribute of damage to targets out of cover. Now, usually in PvE, I actually don't like this attribute. I much prefer damage to health or damage to armor, as I just feel that they are better, and a lot of enemies sit in cover in PvE. But because we're going to be using the decoy so extensively with this build, that is very effective at flushing enemies out of cover when you throw it even remotely close to them, as your decoy will be way further forward than you will be. And actually the damage to targets out of cover, being a multiplicative large damage boost, works very well. So the talent in plain sight, this has now been fixed. It's the very last sentence of these 3 paragraphs that has been fixed. But if we just quickly read through it. Your scoped view displays additional information about enemies not targeting you. Headshot and weak point damage against enemies not targeting you is amplified by 50%. So don't forget, amplified is the best type of damage buff that you can get in the game, and this is a huge one. Headshot kills reset the cooldown of the decoy skill. This bonus will wait until the decoy goes on cooldown if currently active. So that part there never used to work. Yes, if your decoy was already on cooldown and you then got a kill, it would reset it, but of course then you typically wouldn't get the amplified damage, as the enemies would be targeting you. Now, if your decoy is out and you get even one kill with your Mantis, you'll instantly have the cooldown back, whether you break it manually or it breaks of its own accord. You will just get that decoy back. So that's a fantastic improvement and bug fix with the Mantis, and yeah, I'm really happy that Massive finally fixed it. So what we'll now do is have a look at the 2 talents that I think are best in slot, and we're going to damage test these in the firing range. That will namely be Focus, ideally perfect Focus, and of course Headhunter. Let's have a look at those. We are now in the firing range. What we're going to do is a very quick damage test on the 2 talents that I recommend. I know a lot of people do use Glass Cannon and Perfect Glass Cannon with Providence, just because that offers a lot of damage and headshot damage to any sniper build. I'm not going to be damage testing that today, because I do not believe that Glass Cannon is better than Focus or Headhunter. Not only does it do less damage overall if you can land your headshots, but it's just too dangerous, particularly as one of these builds actually works in Legendary, and you do not want to be running Glass Cannon in Legendary unless you have a very capable and competent team that are very well spec'd to work around you, which for the most part isn't going to be the case. You know, you might as well just use Focus or Headhunter. So what we'll do is we'll quickly have a look at the talent descriptions, and then we will damage test those versus each other as well. So Perfect Focus is my option on the this particular build. I've made a few changes here for the purpose of damage testing this, because the 4-piece is going to give us amplified damage, which are every other shot pretty much, so I want to try and avoid that, so we don't skew our damage figures. What Perfect Focus essentially does is give us an increases our total weapon damage, so that's a multiplicative increase, just like Vigilance, by 6% every second that we are aiming, while scoped with an 8 times or higher scope. So the standard version of Focus is 5% up to 50%, which, you know, is still pretty good, but it is quite easy to obtain the pristine example, and the fact that this is already an air oldie, which of course is marksman rifle damage built in by default, this for me is a no-brainer. If you can get one of these, do so, and if you're looking to put a sniper build together and you're keen on Focus, I will get farming this before you even start. It's just, you know, it's a no-brainer to have on a sniper rifle build with the brand set and the additional damage. So the way that this works is, if we quickly zoom in, just go into cover real quick, you see at the bottom right of your screen and the bottom right of my scope, that little binocular symbol is slowly filling up as Focus increases. What we're going to do is just do a couple of headshots, crit and non-crit, and then we will have a look at Headhunter afterwards. So non-crit is 10.3 mil, and then the crit is nearly 11.8 million. So you can see there what I was talking about earlier, the crit chance does not stack very well with headshot damage, which is why you really don't need to worry about crit chance too much on these builds. Obviously more is better, but that test there just proves that. So yeah, between sort of 10 and 11 million there, that's pretty standard stuff with Focus. That's a good number, and you're going to be able to one-shot any red and purple bar with that alone in heroic content, so that's already fantastic news. Let's now have a look at Headhunter. Okay, so we've now got the Headhunter talent on. This chest is rolled in exactly the same way as my pristine example, with crit chance, headshot damage and weapon damage, but of course we have switched over to the Headhunter talent. We're still on an air rolledy chest piece, so nothing should really be that different here. After killing an enemy with a headshot, your next weapon hit within 30 seconds deals an additional 125% of that killing blow's damage. Damage is capped at 800% of your weapon's damage. This is, however, raised to 1250% if your headshot damage is greater than 150%. Now that is super easy to achieve. It's actually nearly impossible not to hit 150% headshot damage if you just run 3 pieces of three pieces of aces, and then the sniper rifle, because these come with 100 or up to 120, I think, or 111, I can't remember the exact level now, but they come with a lot of headshot damage built in, and then you get on the extra 30% from the aces and 8s, which is very easy to get hold of. It doesn't even drop exclusively in the raid anymore. You can get it anywhere in game, excluding the chest and backpack, and you can even get blueprints for all of those if you do complete Dark Hours raid. So yeah, it's really easy to hit that, which means that every shot we do is going to be increased in damage up to 1250%. Now this is obviously a substantial amount of damage, far more than what Perfect Focus can offer us. So let's have a quick look at the damage numbers. Now we're just going to test the base damage before, because we saw it was 10.3 and 11.1, or somewhere along those lines. So this is obviously lower at 8 million and 7 million. What we need to do is get some headshot kills, so let's do that real quick. So there's the first talent procs. There's the second one. There's the third one. So we're up to max already. Now you can see we're hitting much larger numbers, 21, and then back down to that 8 again, because once you've fired the shot, regardless of where the damage hits, you do lose that talent. Let's see what it's like after just 1 kill. $15 mil. So even after 1 kill, Headhunter is definitely winning out. It's clearly a very powerful headshot talent. And I feel that this is best paired when you're running with a team that has a Eclipse Protocol user running Riot Foam. Riot Foam is quite simply the best skill in the game for Eclipse users, and then they can just pair it with a damaging status skill. But running a Headhunter when an entire room is glued to the floor is just a beautiful thing. You'll just be getting those 15, 20, you know, with a well-optimized build, up to 30 million headshots easily. And if you run with Nemesis, you can get way higher than that. So Headhunter is definitely ridiculous damage. The difficulty that I had between these two is, first of all, you need to get a kill to proc the talent in the first place, which isn't too difficult. You're going to be going for kills with a sniper build, but is it too much damage? Now, I know that's a weird thing to say, but If you are in legendary content, it is going to be a lot harder to close kills, just because you're going to be with a group of people, you're not going to get every kill, and as a result, Headhunter isn't up that often. So what I've done is I've put together two builds. The Headhunter talent we're going to be using on our solo build, as we'll be the only person there getting kills, and then Focus I feel is a lot better for the group build, as that performs well in heroic and legendary, and as all you need to do to get a large amount of additional damage is be zoomed in, you can just pop weak points, you can go for hedge, you can go for bodies, you're just applying constant damage without the need to get a kill, which in legendary in particular, and even heroic on a sniper build where you're sat at the back, you're not going to be getting as many kills as of course with the solo build. So you know, they are very different play styles. Headhunter is definitely best for damage. Nobody could even remotely argue that. But I really don't think it is the best talent for group play. Unless you are god tier aim in heroic, then it is very good. Or if your teammates are just running skill builds and you're quite easy to close the kills. But definitely in legendary group play and heroic group play, I still think Focus is better. Let's have a quick look at the two builds I've put together, and then I'm going to load into some group play content with the perfect focus variant. Okay, so we'll start with the group-based sniper build. This is the perfect focus version. So in the usual fashion of all my build videos, we will start from the top and work our way down to the bottom. We'll have a quick look at the stats afterwards, and then we'll transition into the solo build before finishing up this video with some gameplay, some group gameplay with the build that you see before you. Now, the reason I put together 4-piece aces and eights is I do think it makes it very reliable, and after doing some different damage testing, it is one of the best ways to achieve just reliable, constant damage, whether you land your headshots or not. You can achieve more damage by going for 3-piece with Punch Drunk, or the second Heraldry, or Sawyers, but I just felt that for overall damage, and particularly in legendary play where you're not always going to be getting kills, and a lot of enemies are armoured, so hitting heads isn't always going to give you that large amount of additional damage, I do think that the 4-piece is better. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I truly believe that it works really well when you're in very difficult content, that it isn't easy to just get kill after kill and you just want to get loads of damage. So starting from the top, we are of course using the sharpshooter specialisation purely because it is built for sniper rifles. We gain a very good scope with that if we decide to use a non-exotic sniper, the 45 digital scope, which is just amazing for headshot damage. We gain all of our ammo back when we sit in cover over time, which equates to about the same as gunner, so that works really well. We get better aim assist, reacquisition of targets, stability, and increase headshot damage, not only for ourselves but for our teammates as well if they are closer to the enemy than we are. So lots of reasons to use sharpshooter, and I really don't think you should consider anything else at all. What is also good with this is the actual TAC 50 weapon that we get. Whilst the damage is reduced versus named enemies, it does over penetrate, and it actually works really well with any sniper build, so you definitely want to be on sharpshooter for this. Of course, we are using the Mantis exotic sniper rifle, as this has recently been patched, and that is of course the whole purpose of this video. And our secondary, we are running the Emmeline's Guard. I highly recommend with all sniper builds that you run an SMG as your secondary, because they have the highest base crit chance of any weapon type in the game, and are therefore more likely to apply large amounts of damage. Not only that, but the sniper is a long-range weapon. If somebody is rushing you, you're going to struggle to hit your headshots, so you want a weapon that can perform well in close quarters, and ultimately an SMG is best in slot there. A shotgun could work as well, but you don't get the crit chance with it, and I just don't think they're very good with this build, so you definitely want to get an SMG. Honestly, which one you use is your choice. You could use the Dark Winter, you could have, I quite like the Emmeline's Guard just here because it gives us perfect preservation, which is a nice bit of armor regen. Usually if something's rushing me, that means that my teammates might be down or something's gone wrong, and it just helps to keep my health topped off. But there really is no sort of best in slot here. Just use whichever one you think you're most comfortable with, and make sure that you hit that or as close to the 60% crit chance cap with your SMG as possible. What I do think is best in slot is a finisher-based pistol, whether you use the named card with the +1 skill tier and you roll finisher on that, or you go for the Orbit, is your choice. I've always liked the Orbit for DPS builds because the base damage is very high, as it's a Magnum, and you can easily hit headshots with this as well. So this is great for just buffing up your crit chance and crit damage on the sniper rifle if something's rushing you and it's already semi-low health. I really like this as an option, and I use this quite a lot on my sniper build. We're going for 4-piece aces and eights on this particular build, so this now drops anywhere in game apart from the backpack and the chest, which is why I chose not to include those. You are able to get more total damage with the backpack because you only need to get 2 headshots to proc the talent as opposed to 3. So that's a nice little backpack there, but honestly Perfect Vigilance works very well as well. And as I said, this isn't designed to be a min-max damage build, as you can achieve not much more but slightly more damage with other versions. This is meant to perform well in group play right up to legendary. So aces and eights gives us 15% marksman damage, which is awesome. It gives us 30% headshot damage, which is even more awesome. And then the 4-piece, which I really like to run at the moment, is the Dead Man's Hand talent. Flip a card when landing shots with the marksman rifle. After 5 cards are flipped, the damage of your next shot is amplified by 30%. So that's another amplified damage talent. More shots are enhanced, the better the hand revealed. So if you get 4 of a kind, a full house, or aces and eights, what that essentially means is once we've got our 5 cards, we then have either 2, 3 or 4 shots that are going to be amplified by 30%. And we do flip an additional card when we land headshots. 5 cards in total to be flipped, so of course, 2 plus 2 plus what would then be 2 would equate to 3 total shots to get your amped shots. You could just go 2 head, 1 body, but if you do run the backpack, you only need to get 2 headshots, as it will flip 3 cards in total, which is another nice feature. So 4-piece aces and eights is really good, and the reason that I like it on this build over just more headshot damage is if we need to go for weak points, if we need to go for body shots, if we're shooting into a heavy, a chunga or a warhound, which on legendary you're going to see a ton of those, the amplified damage is actually better than just speccing into headshot damage, because that doesn't work versus armoured targets, including those pesky True Sons gunners, until you break their helmet. So that's just something to bear in mind. So we have all of our pieces roll to weapon damage and headshot damage with 3 headshot mods. So if we look at the holster, it's the same. This needs a bit of optimization, but it'll do. Knee pads and the gloves are all exactly the same. What we're then running is, of course, the perfect focus pristine example, which gives us weapon damage, crit chance and headshot damage, and that's the best way you can have it rolled. Once again with a headshot mod, and of course I've already discussed the talent. And then finally we've gone for the gift, which is a named Providence backpack that gives us the perfect vigilance talent. This is another multiplicative damage talent, 25% total weapon damage increase as long as we don't take any damage. And if we do take damage, we've only got to wait 3 seconds as opposed to the usual 4 from the standard version of vigilance. Now, concussion does the same damage as vigilance when you get the headshot damage and then kill somebody with a headshot, and it does work very well on a sniper build, but once again, this build is designed to be for group play, and you're not always going to be getting kills, so vigilance is just 25%, and in theory, especially with your Mantis decoy loadout, you should not be getting hit really at all, so I still think vigilance is best in slot. On top of all of that, Providence 1-piece gives us 15% headshot damage, so this is always very good as well. I don't have one with crit chance and headshot damage. That would absolutely be your best in slot, as crit damage and headshot damage do not stack very well together, as I previously stated, but it's not the end of the world. Ultimately, this is just a great backpack to run regardless. So pretty straightforward build there, just 4 gear sets and then 2 named items, but you don't even need these 2 named items. If you can't get them, just go for 2-piece air roldie or 1 air roldie, 1 Providence, as they do exactly the same thing. Or you could even run the Punch Drunk, which is technically even better than a roldie, and it also buffs your orbit, as this gives us 20% headshot damage and 20% pistol damage, so this is also fantastic. And highly recommended on any sniper build. If you want to swap that in instead of the 4th piece, be my guest, it works incredibly well. I like the amplified damage from the 4-piece when we can't hit headshots in legendary and heroic content. The skills that we are using are the only 2 skills you should ever use in a Mantis build, which is the Reviver Hive and the holographic distraction decoy. Obviously the decoy works well with the Mantis talent. You could, I guess, swap off the Reviver Hive for a different skill, such as a healing drone or a booster hive to improve your handling. It doesn't really make a difference, but I just think that the Reviver Hive is best in slot, as if you get rushed, you've got an SMG, but this isn't going to do as much damage as a Hunter's Fury build, you might still go down. So Reviver Hive is, in my opinion, best in slot. If we have a quick look at the stats on this build, you can see that I am at weapon damage of 850k, but that's not taking into account any of our multiplicative damage boosts. Crit chance is only 26%, but if you do get a kill with the orbit, that will go straight up to 60%, as it's 35% additional crit chance, so 26 is actually a really good figure to have on this build if you get an orbit kill. And then the crit damage is 57%, which will of course go up to just under 100% once that orbit proc has gone off as well. Our headshot damage is insanely high at 300%, and the rest of my build is just based on a maxed out watch level and the specialization that we are using. That's also true for the armor, so these are all just base stats from being on a 6 red build with a maxed out watch level. So that is the group play build. What we're now going to do is have a look at the solo build, and then we'll load into some summits. Okay, so we're now on the solo build. This is the one that is utilising Headhunter, and there's a few changes to the gear pieces that we're using here in the brand sets. You may have already spotted the momentum on there, which you may be thinking, that's kind of weird for a sniper build, as you're not going to be running around. Trust me, it is awesome on a solo sniper build, and the survivability alone makes this worth it, let alone the increased weapon damage, but of course we will come to that. So we are using Sharpshooter for all the same reasons we discussed in the first part of the build video. The increased headshot damage for ourselves, the ammo regeneration when we sit in cover, which you always want to be in cover in a sniper build, by the way, because it does improve your weapon's accuracy. If you didn't know, this is most apparent on LMGs. You can literally see the cursor, the crosshair tighten as you get into cover, but this does, to a lesser effect, affect all weapons, so just bear that in mind. Very good grenade, very good armor kit. It's just the only option you should ever be using with a sniper build. Of course, we're still using the Mantis, and then for our secondary weapon, what I've actually opted to go for here is a Future Perfect SMG. Now, you can still go for the Emmeline's Guard for the perfect preservation, or the Dark Winter for perfect killer. Again, it doesn't make a difference. The whole point of this weapon is to get kills if somebody rushes you, and being an SMG, it's very easy to hit that 60% crit chance cap, which is otherwise quite difficult on a sniper build that has a lot of headshot damage and gear sets that only give you one minor attribute. I like Future Perfect because every time you get a kill with this, it buffs how well our decoy works. Now, yes, admittedly, we do lose this buff when we swap off, but that's not a problem because we can swap off and get a kill with the Mantis to refresh the cooldown anyway. The point of this is that if somebody is rushing us, we get a kill, our decoy will go up to tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. So I try to get a couple of kills with this when I have to swap onto it. And what that will essentially mean, if we have a look at the decoy, is it's going to gain increased duration, increased health, and increased threat. So all the other enemies in the room are far more likely to go for your decoy over you with a Future Perfect weapon, which is fantastic because if someone's rushing you, there's a good chance that all the other ads in the room are going to try and get on you as well. So I like Future Perfect. Honestly, use whatever SMG you want, use whatever talent you want. I really don't think there is a best in slot for this. It is more based on the individual's playstyle. We are, of course, still using the Orbit for all the reasons we discussed before, because the crit chance and crit damage of sniper builds is always very low. This is just a great way to flesh out some additional damage, and yes, you can get a headshot with your pistol to keep your headhunter buff going, which is really good. 35% crit chance and 40% crit damage just for getting a kill and swapping off. This is just awesome for a solo build, awesome for any sniper build, and highly recommended that you get some sort of finisher pistol. Moving down to the gear pieces, we are now using the Punch Drunk. Again, as I stated in the previous build, this is pretty much best in slot for any sniper build, but I just felt for the group version that, you know, can perform very well in Legendary and Heroic, that it doesn't work as well as you're not always going to be getting kills and headshots based on all of the additional armoured targets. So because this one, you know, in theory will have a lot less adds to deal with and a lot less heavies as it's a solo build, and as a result, you know, group scaling isn't coming into play, that 20% headshot damage is fantastic. It's better than any one piece that gives us headshot damage, and because it's Douglas and Harding, the 20% pistol damage means it's even easier to get a kill with our Orbit, which of course will give us the additional crit chance and crit damage. So loads of reasons to use the Punch Drunk. Yes, it's a named item that can be hard to achieve. If you can't get a hold of this, just run a second piece Heraldry or one piece of Providence. Either would be absolutely fine. Moving down to the chest piece, we are of course looking at Heraldry once again. This is rolled very similarly to my perfect focus pristine example, in the sense that we have high weapon damage, high headshot damage, high crit chance. For any gold high-end gear on sniper build, those are the exact 3 attributes that you need. So you could ultimately change crit chance to weapon handling, which I wouldn't disagree with that. You know, you probably saw in the damage testing that the crit versus non-crit is very similar, as you know, and I've already said this a few times now, but headshot damage and crit damage do not stack very well together. They're both additive, they just don't stack well at all, and as a result, even though your crit damage might be, I don't know, 50-60% potentially, you won't be getting that much extra damage when you headshot with a sniper. It'll barely be 10% more, so depending on the build, of course. So yeah, weapon handling could be great if you wanted to eschew crit chance in favour of that. So the Headhunter talent, we already know what this does from the damage testing. Because this is a solo build, this is way better. It's far more useful than in a group build, as you are the only person that is getting kills, and it's really easy to keep this chain going. Yes, it ends up being too much damage for the most part. You can pretty much one-shot a large amount of bosses that don't have armoured health, as an armour plating, like a heavy, for example, or a gunner. But for the most part, this can even one-shot bosses, so it is awesome for solo play. We've opted to go for 3 pieces aces and 8s because we still get the 15% marksman damage and the 30% headshot damage. Aces and 8s, the 3 piece is the single best 3 piece in the game for its respective build, better than any other 3 piece out there. I know Strikers gets a bit of love as well, but the bonuses that you get from aces and 8s are ridiculous. So 3 piece is very, very common to see on almost every sniper build out there. Once again, these are all rolled just as they were in the previous build. Headshot damage, weapon damage across the board, and that's the only way you ever want to spec these. Finally, we are going for Memento. Don't forget this is a solo build. You are going to be, apart from your decoy, the only target that enemies will go for, and as a result, purely for the survivability alone, this is fantastic. You don't want to play this like a normal Memento build, which is running around and grabbing your trophies mid-fight. You want to pick them all up at the end of the room. We are not looking for the short-term buff with Memento with this build. I will repeat, we are not looking for the short-term buff. We're going to ignore that entirely and focus specifically on that very bottom paragraph, which states, for every trophy collected, gain an additional 1% weapon damage, 1% skill efficiency, and 0.1% armor regeneration for 5 minutes, 300 seconds. Of course, that is a maximum of 30 stacks. So what this means is we're gaining an additional 2 reds on the build with the 30% additive damage that it is giving us. We're gaining 30% skill efficiency, and just like weapon handling, skill efficiency is at a 1-for-1 ratio every skill-based attribute in the game. So for our decoy, this is incredible, and for our hive, it's also incredible, as we're gaining 30% more skill haste, 30% skill health, which is great for your decoy, 30% skill duration, which is also great for your decoy, and then like skill damage, repair skills, and all that stuff that we don't use. So lots of reasons to use Memento on every single solo build out there. I know it is literally on every single solo build, and some of you are getting a bit bored of it, but it's too good. It's way too good. It offers just insane bonuses in every department. And even on a sniper build where I could be running Vigilance or Concussion or the Ace's Backpack, it still performs better. Not only is the damage comparable, but the 3% armor regen on a solo build is god tier, in my opinion. And if you are lucky enough to pick up a temporary buff, you'll get even more weapon damage, a further 30% for 10 seconds. But as I said before, we're not going to be going for those. We're just going to be sat at the back of the room, and then we'll pick up all our trophies at the end, and we're just going to rely exclusively on the long-term buff for this particular build. The skills that we are using are exactly the same as before. These are doubly important for a solo build. I mean, you would never run the Mantis without a decoy anyway. You're just better off going for the White Death if you do. But the Res Hive is a necessity for sniper builds, particularly solo ones. So, you know, for the better players out there, and if you are running with a team, you may switch this off. But for solo players, absolutely not. You need to have this on your build, just full stop. If you go down on a 6 red build, or if you get rushed, you know, you're going to go down, and that's it. That's mission over. So that's obviously not what we're looking for. My stats on this particular build are as follows. So the weapon damage is showing at 855k without any of our buffs active. Crit chance is very low, but once again, if you get an orbit kill, this is going to go straight up to 60%, and our crit damage will go straight up to just under 90%, so that's awesome. Headshot damage is 295%, so very, very close to the previous build. And then the rest of my stats are purely based on my specialization and a maxed out watch level. Again, that is the same for the armor stats. The only real difference here is that we have 1 extra blue from the Memento, and as a result of that, we do get some extra skill benefits for our decoys and our res hive, so these are both buffed as a result of that. So it is nice to have a bit of armor on this build, but ultimately it is still a 6 red build with that Memento inclusion. So that's the 2 builds just there. What we're now going to do is load into a group-based mission with the original Focus build. I'm just going to do some Heroic Summit because I don't like playing Legendary without my usual team being in comms with them. Yeah, have a look at that gameplay, and then please jump into the comments to let me know how you run your sniper build. I know mine are a little bit off meta, but I have no issue with that. I think that the way that I put them together works incredibly well for the respective talents. But I'll let you guys decide if you think that's the case or not, and please let me know your sniper builds in those comments. Let's get loaded into that mission. Okay, so we have loaded into a Heroic Summit match made. I think I've got 3 other players with me, and we're at floor 80 or 90 or something. As you can see, I'm running the Focus build. So this is the group play build with the 4-piece aces and 8s to help make up for when we're not able to hit those headshots through armor plating or versus Warhounds or so on. Let's see how we get on. So all you really want to do is just get your decoy straight out, get into cover, start aiming, and hit your heads. Oh, it's always nice when you've got somebody that is rocking the old Eclipse foam. Well played, good sir. Wow, this person stops moving their head. What is that? So as you can see, I'm not the best sniper aim. But yeah, when I do land my shots, this build hits pretty hard. Wow. Now you can keep focus procced by simply zooming in and out like this, so even if you're moving, it just keeps it up, which is always a very good strat. It's a bit sort of disorientating, but 12 million, that was a nice one. Yeah, and that's basically all you do. We'll load into another room and I'll show you that, and then we'll bring the video to a close. I'm just concerned it might go on for too long, but just, yeah, a little bit more gameplay. I just want to showcase how well this build works in group play if you just sit at the back. Alright, let's see how we get on now. We did just have a drone room, which, you know, I was mostly using my SMG and I did go down there, so that wasn't really showcasing the build, so I've cut that particular part out. But this is what I like about this build. I can literally just sit back here, throw my decoy down. Whenever I land a headshot, I get the damage buff. So if you look at the bottom right of the scope right now, you'll see I've already got 3 of a kind ready to go, and then depending on what we get next, one more headshot will give us the full deck, or one body shot will give us 1 extra. Let's try and get this room. This is the only downside to sniper build. Sometimes it is quite hard to set up correctly, and that's why I eventually came off the Soyuz version, because I was moving around so much. If you hold down the scope button, so on console that's L2 and left trigger, you will retain the focus buffs even whilst you're reloading, by the way. Why is this head dipping so much? There we go. 19 million headshot. Woohoo! Let's get our decoy out. The only downside to getting your decoy is you will always lose your focus buff. It only takes 10 seconds to get it back, so just treat it like Soyuz. Wow, I really am missing every shot when they're foamed to the floor, which is interesting because that's when they're stood still. It's just that annoying head bob that is killing it for me. For those of you out there that are actually a pretty good sniper aim though, these builds will work really well for you. I'm going to keep that focus talent procced whilst I'm moving around. So again, just doing this, I'm keeping it at max stacks. Break his helmet clean off. And there it is. So yeah, this works really well. Please let me know in the comments if you want to see the solo gameplay, or if you want to have a look at some legendary gameplay when I get my squad back on. And the build that I'm using now, even with the 4-piece aces, is awesome in legendary, and that solo build is phenomenal for heroic missions, clearing up landmarks and control points and so on. It just works really well. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you do like the content and the build videos that I post, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.